Welcome back to the channel. So I managed to squeeze in another game against Luke's Bretonnians. Keen to get some revenge after last time's drubbing, which was a smaller sort of 1500 point game we played where I managed to step out of line with my main unit and they got combo charged with the Lances of Knights. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen again, I've changed up the list a little bit and let's see how we get on. So what have we got? 2 runesmiths, a Thane BSB at the front there. Behind them we've got 38 dwarf warriors with great weapons, 2 units of slayers. I brought the slayers out again. They were grumbling a lot inside my cabinet, so I had to bring them out to try and slay some stuff. We've got longbeards behind them at the top right there. I think there's 19 longbeards with great weapons, 2 gyrocopters on the right you can see, 4 war machines, 1 of each of the main ones, organ gun, flame cannon, stone thrower and a regular cannon. I had to bring the flame cannon out because I haven't brought that out in a while, and they're always a lot of fun. And I think that's all. Oh, there's a master engineer there as well who I can't see in the picture there. I'm on a split screen at the moment, so perhaps you can see him on the full screen, but he should be there by the war machine somewhere. And that's it, 2,500 points. Left to right from my point of view then, there are knights errant behind those rocks on the Bretonnian right flank. I want to say 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them. Trebuchet. The next block is Knights of the Realm, and I think there's only 9 of them there because the front rank is stuffed full of characters. I think there's 3 paladins in the front rank, one of them holding the BSB. More on them later. Then got another Trebuchet. At the back there, at a funny angle, there's another unit of Knights Errant. In front of them, there are mounted Yeoman, followed by the General on foot, who is a level 4 prophetess on the Law of Heavens, with her band of merry men. And then we have the unit of Grail Knights, and I want to say there's 12 of them too. And I almost forgot, after the Grail Knights, tucked in the corner there, there's yet another paladin, on a Pegasus. He's going to be an annoying little bastard, and we'll come back to him later. Now, most of the dwarves are sort of on the back board edge here, although we're not quite all in a line, as you'll see in a moment. But on my left-hand side then, sort of towards the middle of the board, you've got 1 block of slayers there. That's the block with the full command. You've then got a cannon in the middle, followed by the main block of dwarf warriors. As I said before, there's 1 runesmith and my BSB in that unit. To the right of them, you've got the longbeards tucked in behind, and then in front of them, as a sort of vanguard line, you've got the organ gun, flame cannon, and another group of slayers, and then the stone thrower is behind them, sort of in the bottom right corner. There's 1 gyrocopter behind a rock there, and there's another gyrocopter. I'm not sure I've got a picture of it behind the other rock on the left-hand side. There she is. Yeah. So there's 1 gyrocopter on each flank, hiding behind a rock to begin with. So the mounted yeoman, Vanguard, in front of the Knights of the Realm unit. Now, I imagine they're just being used as a sort of screening role at the moment. We've got a few cannons pointed in their direction, so I imagine the tactic here is to just keep that Knights of the Realm unit alive, at least for 1 turn, so they can get some more units within charge range of the dwarf lines. The dwarves get first turn, and the movement phase and magic phase is quite uneventful, as you can imagine is normally the case on Dwarfs Turn 1. But the shooting phase most definitely isn't. So the first thing we managed to take out was the mounted yeoman, the flame cannon, killed a few of them, didn't panic them unfortunately, but the organ gun finished them off. I thought it was best just to get rid of those fast cavalry straight away, so the next round I can shoot at more important targets. The next one to go was the stone thrower and cannon, and I managed to take out 1 of the trebuchets. So as you can see in that picture there, the mountain yeoman and the trebuchet in the middle are now missing. So quite a successful dwarf turn 1. The gyrocopters also moved forward to make themselves more useful in the next turn. Bretonnian turn 1. So a lot of movement. The Knights of the Realm unit in the centre there, no longer protected by mounted yeomen, and seeing their corpses flayed in front of them, exploded in the sense that some of the characters left the unit. As you can see, there's a character on each side, on each flank of that unit now. and everyone's marched up. So there's a lot of targets I've got to shoot at next turn. The Grail Knights and Knights Errant on the right-hand side of the picture there have also moved up, with the archers moving along as well, accompanying the Mage General. You can also see that one trebuchet in the top right-hand corner there, surveying the scene for a target. And on the left-hand flank, the Knights Errant move up as well, coming towards the middle of the table. Now, the other thing you may have noticed in the picture is this bad boy. So, I was a little bit apprehensive, but this is my first time playing against the Green Knight. And he appears in Bretonnian turn 1, which is quite a good thing, I think, because it means I didn't get to shoot him on my turn 1. And he can only be harmed by magical weapons, and he comes back to life. And he's quite handy in combat, shall we say. He's very, very good, and this would be a bit of a thorn in my side. I wasn't really sure how much I should focus my attention on him. However, I had a bit of a conundrum, which is that because he can only be harmed by magical weapons, the only things that I have in my arsenal to kill this guy are my war machines, because they have runes and therefore their attacks are magical. I don't have any characters with magical weapons. I don't have any other sort of items that give me magical attacks. So it's either I shoot him before he gets to me, or he gets to me and then I can't kill him. Obviously, it is possible I can break him through combat resolution, but each turn he can choose whether to, I believe I need to double check the rules, but he can either increase his strength or increase his attacks. So whenever he's fighting in my units, he's going to get a bunch of wounds, which will probably be enough to offset my rank. So I can't really see me beating him through combat res either. I'm just going to have to keep killing him. Now, it is possible I could have a few direct hits from cannonballs, and just each turn I just cannonball him off, and perhaps I can just hold him at bay with that sort of tactic. But the spawning point for the Green Knight, the sort of woodland area in the middle of the board there, is close enough to my line so that pretty much if I don't kill him in one round of shooting, he's on me in the next turn. So it's going to be quite tough seeing how I deal with him. But it's quite fun to see him, and it's good to have a game against him, so at least I know perhaps what to do next time should he come up. So I haven't mentioned the magic phase yet. Probably because it was a little while ago since we played this game. I need to get more into the habit of doing these battle reports while they're still more fresh in my mind. But obviously, if I don't mention the magic phase, then nothing particularly remarkable happened. Although it is possible I use one of my runes of spell breaking to stop a Commune of Cassandora or something like that. But nothing game-changing. Now, Dwarf Turn Two. So I move one of my gyrocopters that pops out of its hidey hole here to block these Grail Knights. I don't want them going straight into my Slayers next turn. And I managed to kill 3 of them with a hot shot from the steam gun. Fantastic result, really, because it needs force to wound and they're getting like a 3-up save. So to take out 3 knights with that gun and block off the charge, I think that gyrocopter has well made its points worth this game, even with just that. So good result there. And to add with my good fortune with the shooting, I managed to cannonball off the Green Knight. Or it could have been the stone thrower, I can't remember which now, but I think I needed both the cannon and the stone thrower, and with one of them I got lucky and managed to sort of take him off the board for now. Which also panicked the nearby paladin, who, as you can see in the picture there, is turning and fleeing back towards his own board edge. Aha! And that's how things are looking at the end of Dwarf Turn 2. As you can see, I've turned my forces a little bit. We've got a bit of a haphazardous line here. I wasn't too sure of the tactics the Bretonnians would take. On hindsight, I perhaps should have just kept them all in a line, more towards the back of the board, but we'll do that in the debrief at the end. For now, though, as you can see, I've pivoted my Dwarf Warriors a bit to the left to try and complete the line a little bit. Those long beards are hanging back, ready to react. The Pegasus has cut inward, This is on the centre right of the board now. You can see that Pegasus coming in towards my Slayers there, which means I don't need to pivot anything to the right of those rocks there. So looks like the battle is going to happen right in the middle of the board, where it should happen. Just got the decided to hold the line there with the Slayers rather than moving things back. Looks like I will lose those war machines in the next turn, because that guy on the Pegasus is looking at my flame cannon, and there's another paladin there looking at my organ gun, and there's not much I can do to take them out. I've tried to sort of focus my shooting as much as possible, but there's a lot of targets, and I suppose that's a strategy that Bretonnians can use if they've got lots of characters on mounts, and they've got the Green Knight who comes back to life, of course. The Grail Knights have gone into the front of the gyrocopter, as you can see. The Knights aren't there, just coming up in line with the Grail Knights, but not pushing much further forward. The Prophetess has pivoted round there, I believe, to shoot a magic missile at my gyrocopter, which I think I managed to dispel. And as you can imagine, the two paladins there have gone into my two war machines at the front. The organ gun and flame cannon have done okay this game, but the flame cannon a little bit less so. It's always a bit hit and miss taking a flame cannon. They are quite expensive for their points, but I just really love the model and I like bringing it, and it just seems a shame. I've got two of them actually. And one day when I know I'm playing elves, I hate elves. When I know I'm playing elves, I'll bring two flame cannon one day to just see if I can incinerate as many elves as possible. But until then, I bring it now and then for fun. Yeah, so there's the picture of my other gyrocopter, which I actually made a bit of a mistake. So this is going back to Dwarf Turn Two now, when I flew the gyrocopter up in that direction, because I was thinking in my mind that was a rock, because of course it is a rock, but we were actually playing that as a wood. So we've got those trees next to it, and that rock was just part of the wood. And then, of course, midway through the game, I forgot that was a wood. I think he actually survived the magic missile, Thunderbolt, whatever it's called, from the Prophetess. But had I known that the Prophetess had a line of sight there, I probably would have just got the gyrocopter facing the Prophetess, so that at least if the gyrocopter did survive, I could then charge her. But the way it happened, I just sort of moved it there thinking he's out of line of sight from the mage, and I'm sort of threatening the trebuchet, or threatening the knights that are coming by my flank. But anyway, the gyrocopter is still alive. That's the most important thing. And of course, the Green Knight respawns and moves up to threaten my lines once again. It's really going to be a pain in the backside. Now, I may get lucky and get cannon him off the board once again in the next turn. We'll see. But the problem is, of course, if I'm wasting my organ gun, cannon, and stone thrower, whatever, trying to kill this Green Knight who comes back to life and I don't get points for, they're not shooting at the other knights who are threatening my units. The Prophetess also gets off harmonic conversions on this chappie here, so he's got a very good chance of killing my flame cannon. And that's how things look at the end of Bretonnian turn 2. The Paladin has gone through the organ gun and overrun into the engineer there. The Paladin on the Pegasus has just sort of pivoted towards the flank of my Slayers. The other Paladin who fled has rallied behind that Knights of the Realm in the middle of the board there, sort of behind the Green Knight. And the Bretonnians sort of holding the middle of the board. Some dwarves have now lost their lives, a couple of war machine crews. The Bretonnians have lost a bunch of Grail Knights, a trebuchet, and the Green Knight. for once, anyway. And I think that's it. Yeah, so going into Dwarf Turn 3. So the Longbeards declared a charge into that lonely Paladin who's fighting the Engineer. Let's see if we can finish him off. The Slayers have moved up. I think perhaps I did just declare a charge and failed it. On the left-hand side there. And the Slayers turning to face the Knights in front of them on the right-hand side as well. However, the The gyrocopter's no longer there, of course, so we're ready to take the charge. Let's see what happens. So in the shooting phase, I fire the cannon and stone throw at the Green Knight again, and I take off a couple of wounds from him, but I don't kill him. Now, this is rather concerning, because he's now going to become extremely annoying as he comes into combat with one of my units, and I can't actually kill him in combat, at least not through my attacks anyway. So let's see how we deal with him. My engineer has survived, because those longbeards have ploughed through that paladin, and I thought I'd overrun, expecting to sort of get a 7 or something and just sort of reform in my lines there, and I ended up rolling an 11. And so my longbeards, quite embarrassingly, have just done a huge overrun and got really out of position. It's not the end of the world if I lose that unit, especially as the knights are now in the unit's flank, which means those knights will be sort of in a quite unfortunate position for them, where I can do some counter charges on my next turn. But it's certainly not what I had in mind when I decided to do that overrun. Yes, and I forgot to mention this paladin on the Pegasus there behind the rock who fled. I can't remember why he fled now. Did I declare a charge from the Longbeards or from the Slayers? Sorry, it must have escaped my mind, but he's obviously fled a charge of mine, and he's ended up sort of behind those rocks, as you can see him on the right hand side of this picture, and he will then rally in his next turn, but at least we've seen him off for now. And crash. In come the Grail Knights on the right hand side, the Knights of the Realm in the centre on either flank of my Longbeards. Not ideal. I'm probably going to lose that unit in the combat phase. However, as you can see, those knights sort of coming together in the middle there means that I will have some charges off on the next Dwarf Turn 4, which should be quite tasty. The Green Knight is actually in combat with my cannon at the bottom of the picture. Don't know what he's got against that cannon. Sure, the cannon has killed him once, but you know, it's all just water off duck's back, surely. So yeah, let's see if we can hold the Green up. And we do hold the Green Knight up, actually. I think he sort of fluffs his attacks a little bit and doesn't manage to take out that cannon crew, which I suppose is a result. If I can't kill him in combat, at least I can hold him up for another turn and figure out how I'm going to deal with him afterwards. So at the end of Bretonnian turn 3, the Longbeards are mainly destroyed, broken. The Grail Knights have actually... So they've all pursued there, and they've pursued sort of to the right-hand side because we're fleeing away from the biggest unit, which was the Knights of the Realm. But as you can see, that's where the Knights end up. So they're in a prime position there for my units to charge them now. But there's a Paladin in the way, he'll get charged as well. And the Knights Errant on the right-hand side are blocking the charge from the Slayers. So let's see which Knights we can get a hold of finally in Dwarf Turn 4. Yes, another thing I forgot to mention is I lost 5 Dwarf Warriors there to a Trebuchet shot. It was actually quite a good result for me because that template landed slap bang in the middle of those Horde of Dwarf Warriors. I think he managed to only get a few wounds off, and I got some more ward saves from my Master of Grugny, and so just losing 5 dwarfs there when I could have lost like 20 was quite a good result. So, Dwarf Turn 4, charges to declare. So, you'll have to forgive me because I don't have a picture with the charges all completed. As you can see, 1 unit of Slayers on the left there, declare a charge into that Paladin. The big block of Dwarf Warriors declare a charge into the Knights of the Realm, who flee, and they end up redirecting into the Grail Knights. The Slayers on the right hand side declare a charge into the Knights Errant in front of them with the white livery, and they make their charge, they hold. So finally we get some dwarves into combat. And it's quite destructive because we've got a big horde of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons in the rear of those Grail Knights, and the Knights Errant, there just isn't enough of them to take on those Slayers in the front. And the right hand side of the board ends up being controlled by the dwarves. As you can see, you've just got the the other damsel fleeing there, who I've totally forgot to mention the whole game. There's a level 2 damsel with the Lord of Beasts in with those Grail Knights, who's just managed to escape there and is fleeing away. So that's the right hand side of the board. The Paladin fled from the Slayers, and the Slayers tried to redirect into Knights Errant. No, that's wrong. We made the charge, and the Paladin lost combat and fled. Or perhaps they fled before I can't remember now. But anyway, we tried to overrun into those Knights Errant and just missed it, which was a shame because that would have been such a fantastic charge if we'd gone into those Knights Errant as well. We might have actually changed the game. The Knights in red there, the Knights of the Realm, that fled that charge initially, have gone past the archers there in flight. And on Bretonnian turn 4, they carry on fleeing. Almost off the board, but they're still on at the backboard edge there. Those Slayers, who were unlucky not to make their overrun into the Knights Errant, then get combo charge from the Green Knight, who's finally managed to finish off that cannon, still on 1 wound. A Paladin on Pegasus, and of course the Knights Errant to the front, so those Slayers look like they're not going to survive, unfortunately. And that's really how the game finished up. So as you can see, the centre of the board and my left-hand side of the board, you've still got the Knights Errant very much intact there. You've got the Green Knight still on 1 wound left. You've got the Prophetess's unit, who I think the Prophetess left that unit right at the end of the game. And the archers, you've got the Knights of the Realm at the backboard edge, who did manage to rally before fleeing off the edge of the board there, and you've got 1 fleeing Paladin in the top left of the picture near to the Trebuchet. Whereas on the right hand side of the board, you've got my 2 main units left, 1 block of Slayers and the Dwarf Warriors with my BSB and Runesmith. And that's sort of how things finished off. We did have turn 6 yet to play, but because my army was too far away from the Bretonnians, there's too much of a gap between us. So, had we had 7 turns, perhaps we could have seen how it would all end up. But we just decided to leave it there. We did roll a few dice in the end, obviously, to see if those Knights of the Realm would rally, which they did. I took 1 pot shot with my stone thrower to see if I could kill the Green Knight right at the end there, which I didn't. And then we decided to call it a day. So we tossed up the points. It was a narrow victory to the Bretonnians, something like a 12-8. There was a bit frustrating throughout the game because I was struggling to deal with the abundance of characters. Obviously, those 3 Paladins on horseback, a Paladin on Pegasus, and the Green Knight, killing him and coming back to life. There was a lot of characters buzzing around, which made it difficult for me to do my normal strategy of, having 4 war machines and 4 blocks of dwarves and just being able to whittle down the units as they come to me and then gang up on them when they get there. Still haven't figured out a way to get this prophetess on foot. If she's riding along with the knights, it's one thing, but when she's sort of milling around at the back of the board or in the middle of the board, casting comets and stuff like that, she does become a bit annoying. Although I did manage to shut down the magic phase quite well. Gyrocopters were used pretty good as sort of chaff rolls, getting in front of the knights, stopping them from combo charging me. Very pleased with how they went, or perhaps I could do a 3rd gyrocopter to go after that prophetess next time. We'll see. My deployment was a bit out of sync. I think on hindsight, perhaps I should have kept just on the backboard edge there. I was sort of deploying my organ gun on the front line so that I could get shooting from turn 1, because I've been in games with Bretonnians before where they've sort of tried to hang back and use their trebuchets and stuff and not be keen to get into range of my guns. So I thought I'd just put them on the line, but perhaps if they'd been level with the rest of my units, then that perhaps would have given them an extra turn to shoot, or at least dissuaded these Paladins from coming in by themselves. But as it happens, the Bretonnians sort of hung around in the middle of the board, out of my charge range, the short stubby legs of the Dwarfs, but sort of ready to come in themselves. Overall, in terms of the lists, I think perhaps I was at a little disadvantage, with a bit of more of a softer list in a way, 2 blocks of Slayers, flame cannon and stuff like that, up against the Green Knight and his merry band of Paladins. But it was all good fun. Really enjoyed it as usual. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the game. Leave a comment if you're so inclined, and speak to you all soon. Bye bye.